All right, so two new sets are coming out soon. Season 4 from Time Spiraled and Quest for Roseblade from Matt. So we're going to be looking at some of the cards from the new sets, at least some of the cards that either seem interesting or seem to have potential. And yeah, let's begin. First of all, Soldier Tribal. So there's actually plenty of interesting cards for Soldier Tribal, which makes sense because soldiers are a pretty big theme in both the sets, right? Or is that just for Quest for Roseblade?
I think both the sets have quite a few soldiers. Also knights. I think Season War is big on knights.
Yeah.
And Quest for the Roseblade is big on soldiers. But fortunately for people who like soldiers and knights, a lot of the synergy pieces in Quest for the Roseblade work with both.
Yeah.
Most notable which is Chevalier's Lance, which is a very efficient card.
I played with a deck that had this card, and it's really good.
Yeah, so there's 4 blocks of text on the card. You don't actually care about the first strike all that much. You don't really care about the quick cost all that much.
Yeah.
But 1 mana, basically, you attack with Soldier, you equip it, +2/+1. Sounds good.
It's insane.
Yeah, so Founding Hero, being a soldier, big deal. This being an artifact, helps you turn on Civilized. Another big deal. This being equipment, another big deal. You can fetch it with Seto-san, which is kind of nice because it's kind of high tempo equipment, which was kind of hard to get out of Seto-san if you want in blue from rather than Marvel.
Too bad Seto-san doesn't make soldiers or knights.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but I'm sure you can manage. And why make another token of Seto-san when you can just fetch another Chevalier's Lance?
Yeah, like Chevalier's Lance is really good in multiples too, because you can just stack on the same guy without paying anything.
Yeah, but speaking of multiples, Dawnhill Forge Master is a soldier.
Yeah, and also double strike.
Yeah, and it also fetched Chevalier's Lance.
Exactly, like it's the perfect card for that card.
So that's kind of basic idea of, I think this is really the card you're building around when you're trying to play soldier / knight tribal.
Yeah, it's also especially nasty because the lances stick around after things die, so like now all of your other creatures are still threats when they come out.
Yeah, and it's also, of course, 0 mana to equip in functional terms, so don't have to be juggling around with your mana and then they kill your guy that has a lance on it and you go, oh no, I'm on mana.
There's lots of times where I just play out a creature, or at least I had a creature out, I play out the lance, I attacked with it, equipped it, and then play another creature. So next turn, even if my opponent kills a previous creature, I still have another guy to attack with and snap the lance onto.
There's definitely a lot more soldiers and soldier support, soldier tribal stuff in the sets. First of all, there's Underpass Sentinel.
This guy's extremely pushed.
Yeah, so ETB, put a count on something with that 1. Attacks, put a count on something with that 1.
Yeah.
And then it also has Selfless Spirit kind of effect.
But Hexproof and indestructible, so like it prevents both types of destruction.
Yeah, the Hexproof is especially nice because a lot of the removal that sees play is Exile or move to bottom, what have you.
Yeah, and then it's a 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance, so like, yeah, it's extremely pushed.
Yeah. And of course, soldier, relevant creature type here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't even know if there's too much to say about this card.
It's good. It's pushed. It's extremely pushed.
Yeah, don't play it with other +1/+1 counter cards. Actually has decent synergy with itself because it can't put a count on itself.
Yeah.
So if you have 2, they kind of brother up. But yeah, good card. Moving on, we have more specific soldier support with Belmore Bloodcurdler. I think the most natural kind of build of this deck is black-white. Because there are kind of specific knight soldier supports. Chevalier's Lance being 1 in white. There's also a couple in black. Belmore Bloodcurdler is pretty nice lord. Good stat line, decent buff. Kind of also acts as removal, which is really nice. Because really these kind of tribal decks can't really afford to play specific removal. Where you kind of need your creatures to be doing everything.
Yeah.
So you turn something in coward, turn your opponent into coward maybe, as you swing in with your guy with a Chevalier's Lance.
Or maybe you put the lance on this guy and swing. Speaking of going wide, Season of War, it's a Bear Blossom that makes 1/1 soldier creatures with melee. So it's basically attacking as 2/2s. And I mean, it does what it sounds like it does. I'm not sure how good it actually is, but it's a Bear Blossom, so like it can't be that bad.
Yeah, Season of War is a very interesting card. Obviously very powerful. With Beta Blossom that makes 2/2s on the attack. Just sounds powerful. At the same time, Beta Blossom is kind of a bit of a deified card. Where people go, oh yes, Beta Blossom is this crazy card that's busted and you play it turn 2 and you win. But I think Beta Blossom as a card hasn't aged super well as Magic has kind of moved on.
Yeah.
Season of War, I think, is quite a bit better than Beta Blossom, even if like ignoring the tribal aspect of it. But at the same time, it is kind of a card that's a bit hard to work with, almost.
Yeah.
Where it kind of wants you to go wide, but it doesn't really do it all that fast. Where it takes a full turn cycle to get a creature, and then another full turn cycle to get that creature to attack.
Yeah.
It does cost you life as well, which, well, not relevant by itself, kind of hinders your ability to play other cards in black, which tax your life total.
Or just the mana base in general, because they're pretty painful mana base. But like on the other hand, it does give you backup creatures to pick up the lands once your primary attacker dies. So like,
yeah, I think it's incredible in this deck, particularly also because it's enchantment to work with Founding here.
Yeah.
Particularly after Ideal Colossus got its changes, it's not really where Branding Hero decks want to be. So you kind of need to scrounge around for enchantments. Seasons of War kind of fixes that, in addition to being good trial support, just a good card in general. You also get enchantments through the Aura Shapers, which happen to be knights.
Yeah.
Corelight, Champion, and
Lily Reed Triton.
Yeah, Lily Reed Triton are both knights that give you an aura that buffs the creature. So obviously works well Founding here. Season of War kind of helps you up that count, makes you less dependent on creature-based auras, which obviously die to creature removal. So I think it's a slam dunk in this deck. But I think other decks, maybe it's a bit hard to justify it in the average black deck, where stuff like Villainy, obviously I think it works excellently, where it even gives you creatures to kill for Villainy.
Right.
I think it's the kind of card that might end up being overplayed, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on, Soldiers / Knights do have good 1-drops, which a couple tribal decks struggle with. Lily Reed Triton being one. Thirsting Swordmaster is pretty solid as well. 1-mana 2/1 with upside. Death Touch being very good, because a lot of your creatures have double strike or first strike.
Right. Like paying 2 for Death Touch, I guess it's alright if you have nothing else to spend your mana on.
Yeah, even just the threat of it is kind of nice.
Right.
It's not something you're expecting doing, but you need to play these 1-mana 2/1s anyways, just to have something to put lands on. So yeah. I think it's worth a consideration. You also have Margaret Selvent, I'm pronouncing that all right. Kind of has a similar effect. You don't lose combat.
And also, like, it has the improve thing, but like you're probably not paying it, so most of this functions are 1-mana 2/1 with upside.
The Millie Lance being kind of free to equip means that you do have a bit more mana than these equipment decks normally do. So there are a lot of things you can do with this deck. There's just a lot of Soldiers and Knights in general, where like the build I generally end up on is blue-white. You get Shion Shio and Rotted Marlborough. It's kind of these very good cards. Another kind of new card with the Roseblade does kind of take Shion Shio's role a bit, being this kind of endgame equipment threat.
It lets you win races because of the lifelink, and then I guess if your stuff starts dying, you can start getting stuff back. Slightly less relevant because of how much non-dying removal is in the format, but...
Yeah, but still a kind of nice thing, where there's enough that I think it matters. And I think kind of the big part of Shion is kind of the lifelink, where a lot of times you don't want to be blocking with this deck, or with any of these equipment style decks. Chevalier's Lance doesn't equip on blocks. And for the decks that do rely on destruction-based removal, the Roseblade is really nasty. It almost feels like a Loxodon Warhammer type role, except better. It doesn't give trample, but also you don't really need to pay the equip cost if you're just using the free ability on death. So less of a reason to go into blue-white. You do get a new card as Mire, Skyspawn General, as another kind of good knight that you want to be playing 1-drops with. His stuff 1/1, which is nice. At the same time.
I mean, even at base, it's a 2-mana 2/2 Flying Vigilance with upside, so like...
Yeah, not bad. At the same time, you are comparing it to these kind of really strong pet cards in Underpass Sentinel and Corelight Champion, so not quite as impressive in that respect.
Yeah.
And you do also get Skypath Pilgrimage as a nice ore.
Right.
If you go into blue-white. Of course, basically every color I think works. So secondary color, like black, Seasons War, very good card. Blue, Rod of Marlborough, Shion Shio as mirroring these kind of cards. But also in green, you get Sea Drake Rider is a knight that has Concord.
Oh yeah.
You also have Valen's Liberator, which is a knight, which is very pushed, which we'll look at later because it's an elf.
Right.
If you want to look at that kind of, if you want to play those kind of cards, when you're playing these kind of even like exceptional one drops, but I don't think you get anything too great. The high mana cost. You can also go red and play kind of first strike tribal almost, where Balance Blade is a soldier, I believe.
Yeah, it's soldier, not equipment.
Yeah, kind of a flavor fail. Would be better if it's equipment as well, but it happens. But Balance Blade, Chevalier's Lance, really brutal combo where you kind of almost want the opponent to play creatures so you can pick them off with the engage. You also get access to Strong Arm in red, which maybe sets up some turn 2 kills if you're feeling kind of optimistic.
I feel like Strong Arm is a bit too situational.
Well, it's situational until you kill them on turn 2 or turn 3, right?
Yeah.
Where you kind of get this critical mass of pump spells with Chevalier's Lance and Strong Arm, where maybe you can just kind of pick off your opponent kind of quickly. Though obviously it's kind of conditional. And at that point, we talked about all 5 colors. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just this kind of soldier tribal package deck can go in a lot of different directions. And of course, there's also all the soldier tribal decks go wide, play your lords, play your Golden Company tactics, play your duelist poise. But yeah, good. I think that's just a very solid core for a deck. Uses a lot of new cards too.
Exactly.
So a deck with weaker 1-drops is Pirates.
Which is still a really good deck.
Yeah, so I messed around with Pirates a bit after Honora and Over the Horizon got released, because those 2 sets added 2 very powerful cards with Olsen's Flockmaster and Hookhand Freebooter, which are both kind of bonkers tribal cards, when I think most other tribes, they'd be absolutely ridiculous. But in Pirates, you don't really have that great of 1-drops, so they kind of get a bit of a pass. We kind of have to play Suit of the Sea, which is a good card, not the best tribal card. And this other kind of chaffy stuff like Scoundrel Leo, which is okay, not great.
Yeah.
So Pirate's got a few things here. Heist Most Daring is an interesting card because it kind of fixes the problem with having mediocre 1-drops, where you can just kind of skip the 1-drop, play your Flockmaster, attack with it, get the bird that way. Instead, you need to go 1-drop Flockmaster. Also, just kind of a fun card.
Yeah. Also has the exact same art as Broadside Raider. So you can try to confuse your opponent that way.
Might be a bit of a concern.
Turn 1 Heist, turn 2 Broadside Raider.
Confuse your opponent, make them target the wrong thing with the Pithwilt.
Yeah.
I think Heist Most Daring is just also kind of a fun card. I don't know if it's necessarily the best card, but
it's basically an outpost siege.
If you can hit, it seems pretty solid though. But keeping the tradition of getting really pushed lords, we have Lysine, Aerovant Spymaster.
Not actually a pirate.
Yeah, so it not being a pirate is the blessing and the curse. The curse is that you're not allowed to play Adam, and the blessing is that you aren't baited into playing Adam. Because as much as Adam might look like a good card, and it might look free, Adam is not that great of a card. So in exchange for Adam, you get another sideboard Thought, and that's probably actually worthwhile. So Lysine does a lot of stuff, probably too much. Does like 4 different things. A kind of neat thing is that with Heist Most Daring, if you just have Heist Most Daring, nothing else, Lysine can give herself unblockable.
Right.
Which is kind of nice.
Too bad Heist isn't until end of next turn.
Yeah, that's a bit of an unfortunate thing. But yeah, Lysine is just a very strong card. Where you almost don't need to be playing Pirate and Rogue Synergy to make use of her.
Maybe just play it in a Foretell deck so that you can actually try to mind games your opponent.
Yeah, if there's a Foretell deck, Lysine definitely goes in it. Speaking of tribal cards that probably aren't actually tribal cards, we have Getaway Rider. And Getaway Rider pretends to be the Pirate Rogue Synergy card, but it activates itself. There's no benefit for playing more pirates and rogues.
Yeah, because it's
So-
one or more, so like
It's probably still worth playing in pirates, maybe in sideboard. Your creatures getting shot down. But I think it's just also kind of generally good card.
I mean,
I think it.
I guess it doesn't feel that powerful because I mean it's just a 3-mana U3 flying haster that makes a token each turn.
That sounds pretty good to me. I mean, Ward 1 as well. Battle Masters are just kind of good.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's kind of a 2-point clock starting from turn comes down. That's kind of annoying to deal with. I don't think it's an absolutely incredible card, but at the same time, I think it is kind of competing with like Intrepid Captain, which is another pirate that doesn't really need pirate's energy
Yeah.
as far as kind of good aggressive 3-drops go. So I think that's kind of the end of the pirates that really make pirates like function almost. But you also have another pirate in Sofia, Fortune's Faded, which, while a pirate, doesn't really play well with typical tribal stuff.
Yeah.
Particularly because whenever she hits the opponent, she foretells herself. So obviously, very high stats, 2 mana for 7 stats. Basically draws a card when it hits, draws from the opponent's deck, but whatever. And well, very strong on her own. I don't think she really works with tribal synergies. I think you just build around the card herself and not mess around with playing it in pirates.
Yeah, I mean it's basically a Ragavan that doesn't make treasures and doesn't also have the modes of coming down as a 1-mana 2/1 with upside.
You can just play it as a blocker. It does need to hit, so you can just play it down as a 3/4 wall, which is kind of nice against aggro.
Yeah, it actually blocks all of Burns' creatures pretty well too.
Yep, and then you can kind of, when you've kind of stabilized, you can kind of start attacking with her. So kind of things that I think Sofia helps you enable is kind of these Mardu mid-range shells, which have always been kind of good, generally launched on like Dawson.
Yeah.
And like these kind of Planeswalkers and Anish 2 and Valdez and all these cards. I think this goes straight into those decks. Maybe even makes you a bit less reliant on Planeswalkers to generate card advantage. Particularly, she also works very well with Toddy, because Toddy doesn't really have many good aggressive 2-drops to fetch in those kind of decks.
Right.
Where really you're just kind of stuck on Anish 2 as your kind of go-to fetch target, which is also kind of nice because you don't really want to draw multiple Sofia, so you can kind of play 2 Sofia, Toddy can fetch 1 pretty easily. Also lets you main deck Toddy more happily. Toddy's an incredible card in the right matchup.
Yeah, that's Toddy like actually swinging for damage basically, so like it becomes reach too.
Yeah, you're just way happier going play Toddy +2, 5 counters, and the control deck doesn't really want you to play down a Sofia. And not only play down Sofia, but also have your mana up to hold up whatever you hit off Sofia.
Yeah.
If you get a counterspell or what have you. She's also fetchable off Sworn Cohort, which is another card these decks can like playing. Because Sworn Cohort also fetchable off Toddy, also fetches Toddy, fetches Puno and all these other kind of nice Planeswalkers. But I think that's kind of a very nice package that works together well.
Yeah.
Additionally, I think she works very well with the new card Commanding Princess.
Yeah. When Commanding Princess enters the battlefield, choose 2, and you have a bunch of different modes that all do a lot of different things. So like it's super flexible.
Yeah. So I think most notably about Commanding Princess is that it's really hard to attack into 4 mana if the opponent has Commanding Princess, because in terms of Commanding Princess just like obliterates most attacks with some combination of votes.
Yeah, it's a huge blowout for any attacker.
Where the shock is relevant, the gain 2 life is also relevant. If you getting back Sofia as an example, that's a 3/4. That's just one part of the card.
Oof, yeah.
First strike, +1/+0 and first strike, also great. You're being attacked by like a 5/5 bounty token, or more specifically a lone survivor on turn 4. Well, Commanding Princess, shock the lone survivor, +1/+1 first strike, kills the lone survivor and leaves you with 2/1.
Yeah.
Also lets you play main deck artifact and enchantment hate, and just kind of beyond working with Sofia, just kind of getting her back in the graveyard. Also kind of letting you be a bit more aggressive and play with a weaker board. Because Sofia is kind of mana hungry, where you kind of hit and you kind of spend all this mana to deal 3 to the opponent, get a card, and then have to replay them. The Commanding Princess kind of lets you skimp a bit more on the defensive resources.
Yeah.
Additionally, you could also play Commanding Princess kind of as just kind of in a control shell. Obviously, being hard to attack into, big deal in control decks. Additionally, gets back Cane Dancer, very good control card.
It is flash, so like it goes at Mabel.
Yeah, absolutely. Where not only does it go in Mabel, but it gives you a lot more ETB creatures. So if you want to mess around with Tenuous Existence, that's also probably going to work really well.
Oh, yeah. Does it work with the Modo tribal artifacts?
It works with Nexus. I don't believe it works with Palace. Actually, no, it does. Oh, wow.
So I guess you can just clone the princess?
Yeah, seems like it.
Huh.
So yeah, if you don't want to go that route, definitely can. Commanding Princess does get decent bit more powerful off the back of Nexus possibilities than Palisade. Tenuous Existence too.
Yeah.
If you do decide to play it in like Mabel style deck, bunch of flash creatures, I kind of like that because you have such a good proactive draw go game where you're guaranteed to get the Mabel. Then if you get the Tenuous Existence, turn 3 Mabel, hold up 4 mana, you can't really get punished aggressively because Commanding Princess is so hard to attack into. And well, you have Tenuous Existence on Mabel as a very powerful kind of draw go plan when Tenuous Existence also has flashback and is removal.
And like you can also try to confirm ramp into Commanding Princess.
Yeah, so get your ramp while also being kind of strong defensively. You can also use if you want to try to get a Cane Dancer. Cane Dancer not working with confirm anymore, unfortunately. You can also test out a new card, Ready for Anything.
It's basically a preordained, except it also ramps you by 1, so like you can end of turn 2 play this thing and then play a 4-drop next turn.
Yeah, but it kind of helps out getting your Cane Dancer numbers up because you're not necessarily in green for Bounty of the Gardens, which always makes it a bit hard to get Cane Dancer targets to the degree that you want.
And like even outside of the Commanding Princess deck, you can play Ready for Anything in the Cane Dancer plus Infectious Eagle plus Confirm deck as another way to get turn 3 Infectious Eagle.
Yeah, that'll give you going up to 8 copies of a 2-mana blue spell that lets you play 4-drop on turn 3 makes that kind of strategy way more consistent. And well, Ready for Anything kite cards did have existed in the past. Ready for Anything, I think, is just by far the best.
I think it's only one that's an instant.
Yeah, and I think the prior ones didn't have the scry to for some other minor advantage, like the treasure being untapped, which if you're trying to turn 3 or 4 drop, you don't really care about.
Yeah.
So going forward, we have another tribal deck.
Man, there's lots of tribal support these 2 sets, which makes sense.
Yeah, and lots of very powerful tribal support. So Elves kind of got an interesting turn where a lot of the Elves kind of work with aristocrat type strategies, which is kind of surprising. Particularly looking at Valdane's Liberator as a really good aristocrats card. Showed up as a possibility in the night stack, but if you're just sacrificing it to get back 1 drop in aristocrats, that sounds great.
Even attacks as a 2/2 if you like don't have anything else to do.
And then you also have other cards, Bloodbriar Archdruid, which is just straight up an aristocrats card.
It's a 1/2 that actually just grows each time something dies. So like,
and also innately,
it's not even non-token. So like, you can just grow up really fast. And it's trample too. So like, you can sometimes you can just attack with this thing and you'll be happy with it.
Yeah, trample definitely be a huge advantage to these types of cards, and also just the incidental life gain is really nice in some matchups.
Yeah,
where even if burn kills it, well, get it back with Valdane's Liberator, start getting life again, and you look pretty happy. You also have Bloodbriar Acolyte as another just straight up aristocrats card, which is another interesting thing.
Yeah.
And kind of all these cards work together with another card that you might have not realized is an elf in Autumnal Watch. Did you know this was an elf?
Not really.
Where I think this is just the best outlet in the format. I'd be wrong on that.
No, I think it is. Well, there's also Cleanup Crew in black if you want like quickly better Viscera Seer or something.
Yeah, but I think I kind of want to cast my cards. So I think even the kind of base black decks, aristocrat decks, were playing Autumnal Watch over Cleanup Crew even.
Yeah.
And Elves, and like even that, just like those set of cards is kind of a good base. But you also have just other elf support. Modric's Harrier from Over the Horizons. This entire cycle is very strong.
Yeah.
Having Anthem is kind of nice. Being able to search 6 for whatever piece of your aristocrats combo is nice. Gives you 2 creatures or Autumnal Watch, what have you. You also have Lure Leaf, which is just a really great card where it kind of ramps you, fetches lands. Searching for an elf, also really nice. Lets you play these more conditional type cards, and then turns into Glimpse of Nature at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that alone is also just like that. Just sounds like a very good deck, but it doesn't even stop there. Where you get, where just from the new cards, you get really easy access to Far Dancer Leech as a 5/5 for 2.
Right, because
Where,
it works with the tribal lands.
Yeah, so Secluded Courtyard, another tribal 5-color land. Humble Abode from Anora hasn't seen much play. Still exists. Chowing Stone, another 5-color mana producer for these heavy creature-based decks. And then also Bustling Marketplace, which, since you're playing so many 5-color lands, it just is a 5-color land. But basically all this means is that you get to play good mana. Not great, because playing Lure Leaf can be a bit awkward with all these cards. But you get to play 2-mana 5/5 that has the right tribal type.
Yeah.
So even if you're not convinced on the kind of Aristocats plan, going just Modric's Harrier, hit a Far Dancer Legion on turn 3, maybe play Far Dancer Legion turn 2 as well. Maybe play Dovin on turn 1 and play Harrier on turn 2, which hits a Far Dancer Legion. All that just sounds great if you're just playing tribal. But you can go really far into the Aristocrats plan with Frontier Trackers as another just Aristocrats card. That's an elf. That also lets you combo, weirdly enough, where you can play Dazzling Dreamspinner if you want to, and kind of combo off. Because Autumnal Watch draws you cards, Dazzling Dreamspinner gets you mana, Lure Leaf draws you cards when you cast Elves. So it's from a very different direction you get Elves as a combo deck than what, if you're familiar with Elves and Counter Magic, being a combo deck looks like. Because you don't even need to be playing Mana Dorks to necessarily make this work, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also, Elves get a Rattle Master, because that's the thing to be printing nowadays, I guess. Which makes mana, which is cool. In Gladesworn Ranger Captain. But yeah, I think Elves is kind of cool. You also get some other cards like United in Battle and Guidewood Ranger if you want to go on a different kind of lane. That also works with Duskwood Revolutionary. If you're doing +1/+1 counters, maybe Rowless Commander is good. Lots of cards to consider.
Yeah.